It's always a real pleasure to meet diversified gardeners across the state. And folks, today I'd like for you to meet Miss Jerri Henley of Duncan, Oklahoma, who fits this description to a T. Now, Jerri is very diversified, which you're about to find out, and your area of expertise, Jerri, is with herbs. Now, I've noticed that you basically have landscaped with herbs around the house. Tell us about that.
Well, most of our beds, or our flower beds, do have herbs in them. There's very few flowers, just plain flowers. Most of them do have herbs in them.
Now, tell me about herbs as far as a definition. You've, just in talking with you, you can tell a history, story, and lesson about almost every one of them. What is an herb in your definition?
Herbs are those plants whose leaves, seeds, flowers, the roots, and the bark all are used for medicinal, dye, for cosmetics, there's 5 different things.
Cooking, I think. I mean, there's just all kinds of things. Now, the interesting thing, though, Jerri, you've been referring to them as weeds a little bit, too, haven't you?
I have. Most of them, if you'll think about it, they are wild plants that grew in the pastures and the bar ditches and along the beside the roads.
But they're valuable weeds, aren't they?
They are.
Great purpose.
They have valuable histories that go along with them too.
Now, we like to say weeds, anything, a plant out of place, but again, there's so much to do. But I've noticed an interesting thing that you're doing with the herbs is how you're staking them. You're diversifying right here by using what kind of a cage?
Well, these are tomato cages, and the tansy gets a little bit lopsided. It's a little heavy. So you have to have something to hold it up.
Kind of hold them up, so you get extra use out of that. Now, Jerri, the other thing, most of these herbs are in full sun, but which is what most of us have come to find out. But you're growing some in shade. Why don't we go and take a look at some of the ones that you're growing over in shade then?
Fine.
Now, Jerri, how many different types of herbs would you say you're growing?
I have well over 100. I don't know. I haven't really counted them lately.
Well,
there's probably 50 in just this filtered light here in the pine area.
And that really surprises me too, at how many you're able to grow under partial shade. How are you able to pull that off?
I like to try them in the filtered light as well as in the bright sunlight. I have people ask me which place they grow better, and I really like to try it out. And so most of them will grow either way very well.
And I think that's because of our hot, dry summers a lot of times too, don't you think? Now, Jerri, another thing that is interesting, you've got kind of a rocky soil here too. What did you do bed preparation-wise to get ready to plant the herbs?
It's all organic matter, mostly lawn grass clippings.
Okay.
And my husband, he put a ton of them on here from time to time before we ever started beds in here.
Now you spend a lot of time preparing, but you tell me too that herbs don't like too rich a soil because it can have a detrimental effect on them.
It can, they're not too choosy about the type of soil they have. They're weeds, and weeds will adapt to just about any type of ground.
So therefore, you really don't spend a lot of time fertilizing or side dressing, maybe unless there is a deficiency or something obvious. You just let them do their thing and keep them watered, don't you?
About the only rule that you do want to watch is most of them don't like clay feet.
Okay.
And other than that, you can.
So good drainage. Now, one thing that always I know is confusing for me is when do I cut them? How much do I cut back? Why don't you explain that to me right here with this particular one?
Some of them can look pretty sad after you really harvest them. Now, on this particular one, this is rue, herb of grace, and I'm letting this plant go ahead and go to seed naturally because I want to save the seed to start some in the greenhouse. This is a perennial plant. So I'm going to come down here and I'm going to cut off a good 2/3 of the plant. And this plant will go back real nice. In fact, it'll probably have 2 shoots where I cut that one off.
So you're actually cutting it back pretty severely. You tell me you have a rule of cutting about 2/3 of the plant.
2/3 of the plant back. And if you're going to have want your beds to look real showy, of course you want to wait until you're through with that period of time, maybe company or what have you.
Right.
And then go in and cut your plants and give them time, cut them where you'd have time for them to grow back by fall.
And you tell me the time that you harvest them too is about, what, 10 o'clock in the morning?
And that's when the herbs, the dew is off of them by that time, dried off, and they're at their peak of flavor. And also, you usually get about 3 harvestings a year.
Okay. So you keep up with it and you're not afraid to cut them back. Now another thing I want you to show, Jerri, is this little handy dandy tool real quickly.
Okay. This is made from the tin that come off of brick, building bricks. And it works real well to go right in and get the weeds that are up real close to little tender plants. Much easier than your hoe or anything else.
Right.
You're not as likely to
damage other plants. Now you've just wrapped masking tape around that, I guess, right?
I think you could probably come up with something that would be a little bit more comfortable, but you can pinch it up as tight as you want to.
Just to protect
and you
your
can
hair.
also get in and work your ground real easy with it too.
Well, Jerri, let's go inside now, because this is a part that I'm really excited about, how you're drying and cleaning everything. Why don't you show us what you've got inside?
I'll be happy to.
Boy, Jerri, I can tell we are in the kitchen of an herb cook here. Tell us how you clean the herbs now that you've harvested them.
Well, you have to be real gentle in washing them and not get real aggressive and bruise them. And then hang them up. I hang the smaller ones in here and let them drip dry, and the larger ones I handle by taking them into the bathroom and using a big plastic tub in the bathtub.
Right, so that way you can hang them there, and you use a porch screen, it looks like a window screen, to let them dry there as well. Now you're using what kind of hangers to?
Now these are some that are made out of clothes hangers and fashioned into little S hooks.
Right.
And that go around a rubber band, or as these are, or in under one like here with a little limb.
Okay, so a very important part in just getting them washed off for insects, dust, those kinds of things. And the amount of problems depends on how much you wash them. Now, in the next step, after they've dried a little bit here, you're taking them into a special room to dry.
Right.
What is so important about in a dark closet and a fan and everything?
They hold their flavor and their color much better. The light bleaches the color out of them.
Yeah, you've just kind of encroached on one of your closets, right?
I have, and I have spring-type curtain rods all in the closet, and I have a fan at the door. You must have some ventilation though, to keep the air moving around.
Okay. Now your bigger ones you're drying out in the garage though. Again, you want to keep them out of light, good air circulation, and you don't want much humidity, I assume, either.
If you do this on a rainy day, you will get a little bit of dampness, and you want to crisp them off in a dehydrator or an oven first.
Okay. Now, Jerri, once we've got them dried, how long is that going to take usually?
2 weeks hanging in the closet is what I allow for.
Now the next step is to, why don't you come over here and show us what you've got here. You're actually going to...
These are herbs that I have dried, and after I completely dry, the first step though, I put them in a plastic bag, and then I put them in the freezer overnight. And this is just in case there's some type of insect left on them.
Okay.
And then after that, they go into jars, and I store them in a dark cabinet. The ones that I'm using in my cooking, though, I keep on the little Rubbermaid turntables up here, and each one will hold 16 of the little jars. So I always have plenty on hand at all times.
Okay. So after you pick off the leaves when they're dried, or whichever part you're going to use, you're going to freeze them to get any insects out. Now you tell me you can store some of them in the freezer, right?
You can. I would store them in jars though, and not in plastic bags, unless they're real good, durable Seal-A-Mill.
Now it's real crucial
bags.
that you store this product, if you're not doing in the freezer, in a dark place too, right?
Right. Store them in a dark place to keep the color bright.
Okay. And then you just take from here in your smaller quantities when you need to use them. Now one last thing, Jerri, tell me, the difference between fresh and dried herbs as far as the amounts you're going to use in
You're going to
cooking?
use about 1 teaspoon of the dried herbs to 3 teaspoons of the fresh herbs.
Okay, so you're going to use more of the dried.
Dried.
Okay.
No, less of the dried.
Less of the dried and more of the fresh.
Because of its concentration.
Okay. Well, Jerri, we don't even have time to talk about all the vinegars and the potpourris and all the other things you do. Again, diversity. I told you, this lady just fits it to a T. And we appreciate you sharing this with us. And by the way, we found out about Jerri through the video contest too, and we're glad you sent that in last year. And thanks for having us down.
Well, thank you for coming down.